Hey everyone, Mr. MC here, and on December 4th, 2025, Gran Turismo 7 came out with the Spec 3 update and the Power Pack DLC. So in this video, we're going to go through some of the things that the Spec 3 update presents, and I'll briefly talk about the Power Pack DLC as I'm barely just starting to scratch the surface of that mode. If you want to see the patch notes, I'll link it in the description down below, but other than that, let's go ahead and get this started. So in the Spec 3 update, we get two new tracks. The first one is at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which is in Canada, and this is my very first time playing in this track and in the other track, which I'll mention in a moment, so please do excuse my skill issues, but there are some pretty high-speed sections and some really hard braking zones, so if you're trying to get used to this track, get ready to brake at the right time, otherwise it's going to be very easy to overshoot it. Now going on over to what this track has to offer at the get-go, there are two single-player events. For the circuit experience, which will show up in just a moment, the car that's being used is the 2020 Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3. Next up is the Yas Marina circuit over in the UAE, and this is also my first time trying out this track in any racing game, so do excuse my skill issues. But the first section of the track is a bit technical, but it is not as technical as the final sectors, where down it does get pretty tricky. And then at the long back straight, you do want to have a car that can carry a lot of speed down there, but you do have to brake pretty early, as there's a double hairpin at the end of that long straight where, yeah, it's going to be really easy to overshoot it. Now, Yas Marina comes out with three single player events right at the get-go, and the Ferrari 296 GT3 is the car that's being used for the circuit experience. Now, interestingly, Igor Nordwin in reverse gets a circuit experience, and the car that's being used for this is the newer, or quote-unquote newer, Alpine A110. Now, what's even more interesting, or to the point where it's getting silly, the update comes with Nürburgring Endurance in reverse, where you go through it in the other direction, and yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a mind-melting experience, because this is something that you probably wouldn't think about doing, but now it's a thing you can do. Do note that this is only available in the single-player time trial mode, and if you're wondering where the start-finish line is, it is next to the toll booth area right here. Now, there are a couple other new events that are other tracks, so let's go ahead and briefly go through them. Blue Moon Bay Infield A gets the Japanese front-wheel drive challenge 450. And finally, Goodwood gets the European Sunday Cup 400. Now, in a moment, I'm going to talk about the cars that arrived with this Spec 3 update, but I will not talk about the cars that are obtainable through the Power Pack, as I feel like that deserves a different video. Now, first up on the list is the Ferrari 296 GTB. This is from the year 2022, coming out with 818 horsepower, weighing at 3,241 pounds, and this car will cost you 500,000 credits. Next up is the Ferrari 296 GT3, which will cost you 1.2 million credits. It is a Group 3 car, so you can use it in a lot of the sport mode races. Next up is the Polestar 5 Performance, which will cost you 120,000 credits, and with that you get an 871 horsepower monster, but it also weighs more than 5,500 pounds. Next up, we get another new open wheeler car with the Gran Turismo F3500B, which will cost you 1 million credits. Next up is the Mines BNR 34 GTR N1, which will cost you a whopping 3 million credits. In the used car dealership, you'll find the Mitsubishi FTO, and at the time of this video, this car will cost you 35,000 credits. Next up is the heckin' cute Fiat Panda, which will cost you 14,000 credits and gets you a whopping 29 horsepower. And finally, we get the Renault Spec F1, which is in the Legends car dealership, which will cost you 2 million credits and gets you a whopping 800 horsepower. Now with the Gran Turismo and Dunlop partnership, we get a couple new tire stickers for those that are using the racing tires, and if you're using sports or comfort tires, there's going to be some new tire patterns as well. And in a moment, I'm going to talk about the engine swaps, as there's quite a few of them. But first, I want to give thanks to the GT Planet user Corza, as they provided a list of the cars with the engine swaps, so I'll link their post in the description down below. Now let's go ahead and get started with the Chevrolet Camaro Z01 1LE, which gets the engine from the Bugatti Chiron, and it's going to be a similar story with the next couple of cars, starting off with the Chevrolet Corvette C5. The Chevrolet Corvette C7ZR1 also gets the Chiron swap, along with the Chevrolet Corvette C8. But it's not just the Corvettes that are getting it, the Ford Shelby GT350R also gets the Chiron swap. Now the De Tomaso Pantera gets the engine from the Lamborghini Aventador SV, the F3500A gets the S-Space and the F3500B engine, while the F3500B gets the S-Space and the F3500A engine. The Honda N1 gets the engine from the Twin 4, the Lamborghini Urus also gets the Chiron engine swap. The Mazda Spirit Racing Roses 12R gets the engine from the Mazda RX-7, and this car is now upgradable and you can see its stats in full. The Mitsubishi FTO gets the Evo Final Group B engine swap. The Nissan R32 GTR Nismo gets the Mines engine swap, and it's going to be a similar story with the Nissan GTR R33. The Renault Megane Trophy gets the S-Space engine swap. The Suzuki Carry is going to get an engine swap from the Honda 2 and 4. The 2019 Toyota Supra gets the S-Space engine swap as well. The Toyota 86 GR-MN gets the LFA engine swap. And shout out to the GT Planet user 05XR8 for this information, where the Skyline GTR Tune from the Power Pack gets the Super Silhouette engine swap, and the Toyota 88611 from the Power Pack also gets an engine swap, but I wasn't able to find out which engine goes into this car, so once I find it out, I'll leave a pinned comment down below with which engine this car gets. Now the collector level is going to be one thing that gets updated with the Spec 3 update. So the level cap is going to go from level 50 to level 70. And one really good update, which has been a long time coming, is that the invitations now have no expiration date. So gone are the days where you had to rely on RNGs to try to get the invitation for the car that you want. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about the data logger. So when you enter a race, if you do a couple laps or if you have a replay saved, you can click on data logger and you can load up the lap you just did, a save lap that you did. You can load up a replay from the collection, or if you're in, for example, the online time trials in sport mode, you can load up a lap that someone else did. The one thing that you want to make sure is that they have the little replay icon next to the time. If they do not have that, you will not be able to load up their lap. But if they do have that little replay icon, then you can load up their lap and you'll be able to compare where you're gaining or losing time compared to the other person in question. So for example here, the person in P2 does not have a replay save, so if I press X, a whole bunch of nothing's going to happen. But if I press X on the number 1 time, which does have replay saved, their information will load up and it'll instantly start to show where you're gaining or losing time compared to them. So there's quite a few controls to play around with, and you can really zoom in to see exactly how far back or ahead your car is compared to the other person in question. And one thing I like to do is when the data logger loads up, I like to press triangle so it can show you exactly how far ahead or behind the other car is compared to you. So for example here, you can see that the person's replay that I loaded up is quite a few tenths of a second ahead of me. They're about half a second ahead of me, and I can see that their inputs, like their braking inputs and all that stuff, is later and much more cleaner than mine is, which means that I'm losing quite a bit of time. And there are a couple other things I can see. So for example here, you can see the throttle input between myself and Kaj, whose replay I loaded up. You can see our RPM difference. You can see our braking difference if you want to set that up. And there's a couple other things that you can check out as well, which you'll see in just a moment right about now. So yeah, so quite a few things that you can do with the data logger. Now we're going to go ahead over to the changes in the multiplayer lobby. So one thing you want to know is that the default region is set to same region. So if you want to check out other regions, you will need to change that out. You can now create private lobbies. So if you're doing a league, then you can set it to private and only have those that are participating in that league be given the code and they can enter your lobby, so you won't have random people showing up. Mandatory pit stops are also a thing now, so you can have up to 5 mandatory pit stops. If you set the usable tires to either racing, sport, or comfort, another option will show up where there is a mandatory tire change. So if you click it to on, the people racing in that race will need to change their tires at least one time. So for example, in this case, there is one mandatory pit stop and they need to change their tires at least once. There is also a couple more options to filter out what kind of cars you want to use for the lobby. So there is a year limit for the lower limit and a year limit for the upper limit. You can also be a bit more restrictive with your drivetrain. So if you only want front-wheel drive cars to participate in the race, then you can go ahead and set that up. Aspiration can also be restricted, so if you only want turbocharged cars to show up in the race, then you can set it to that. Another thing is that slipstream strength can now be disabled, so if you're tired of dirty air or the OP slipstream, then you can disable it. Now if you want to find the room ID code, it is just under the performance point value, so you'll see right there, that is the room ID number. So if you're looking for it, look under the performance point value, and just below the credit value in the lobby screen, you can go ahead and enter the room ID number. So if you know it, you just type it in there. And if you're in a multiplayer lobby, you can press triangle to see what cars other people are running, and you can see their performance point, horsepower, and weight, and their transmission, and kind of get an idea about what you're about to face up against. Now with the Spec 3 update, there are a couple extra menus. There's 4 to be exact. So going over to extra menus, scroll all the way down and you'll see the 4. So you'll see Alfa Romeo Legends, which is going to be a very expensive extra menu for a 6-star roulette ticket. Legendary Road Racers, also pretty expensive for a 6-star roulette ticket. You'll see the Audi TT and the Mazda extra menus for a 4 and a 5-star ticket respectively. There's also a seasonal menu, so you have a limited amount of time to try to collect the cars for this menu and you'll get a reward. So in this case, you need the Fiat Panda, Mitsubishi FTO, and a Renault Espace to get a 6-star roulette ticket, and just go ahead and redeem the award once you get those 3 cars. We'll quickly touch upon the Scapes feature because we did get some new scenes and some new curations. So the Yas Marina circuit got a new scene for the Scapes mode. Gilles Villeneuve also gets a new Scapes scene, so if you really like the track, you can go ahead and check out the Scapes scene there. There are 2 new curations. The first one is Tuning Shop, which you're seeing right now. There are 15 Scapes photos that you can access here. And finally, the 4th and final curation is the additional light location, which gives you 20 Scapes locations that you can play around with. Weekly challenges can now be accessed from the main menu, and I don't have the new challenges yet because I'm in the Pacific time zone, so we're like one of the last ones that gets the new weekly challenges. But the Reddit user Play Michael does have the new weekly challenges, which you're seeing right now. So they did get a bit of an update, so you'll see some different challenges coming up. For example, one of them is the 1 lap magic. Now, I'm briefly going to talk about this one because I feel like this deserves a whole video on its own, but with the Spec 3 update comes the optional Power Pack mode. So for $30 US, you get basically a new career mode where you can do 50 races, and as you complete the races and finish as high as possible, you'll gain these stars, which can be used to unlock different things. So you can get roulette tickets, or you can get up to 6 new cars, which I have displayed right now. Now you'll get some information about the race you're about to do. So you'll see that the practice mode will last around 1 hour, but you can of course skip it to the end. There is a qualifier, and then there's the race itself. Now before you actually do the event, you are presented 3 cars, which unfortunately you cannot use your own car. You are provided 3 different cars that you can use. And some cars have a little red chili pepper, which means that you're going to have a slightly harder time, but you did get more credits depending on where you finish. And in this mode, you do race with the Sophie 3.0. So depending on the cartridge you're using, the Sophie AI can either be a little bit of a pushover, or they can give you a hell of a hard time. For example, this was the very first race I was doing in the Power Pack mode, and this AI was giving me a hard time because he had a bit more power coming out of the exits, but his handling was not the greatest. And yeah, he was making it very difficult for me to be able to pass him cleanly. One thing that you do need to be aware of is that if you mess up, there is no retry button. You will have to retire and do the entire race all over again. So you want to be careful about what you do, because you don't want to be super aggressive to the point where you accidentally take yourself out. And you also want to try to qualify well, because some of these AI cars can be pretty fast, and once again, they can potentially give you a pretty hard time. So I haven't come across a final verdict for this mode just yet, just because I've barely done a couple races for the Power Pack mode. All I know is that from my brief experience so far, some of the races, the AI, they presented a pretty good challenge, so they gave me a hard time trying to win the race. For example, this Porsche race. But there were other races where the AI cars were a bit of a pushover. So For example, in this muscle car race at Laguna Seca, well, first of all, the rolling starts pretty weird because you start before turn 10, but that's a different story for another time. The AI, they were kind of slow, so I qualified first and I kind of just ran away with it. So yeah, so they're a bit of a mixed bag, but don't get too complacent, because there are a couple races where the AI are going to give you a bit of a hard time. But that's going to be another video for another time, as I mentioned earlier, because there's quite a bit that I'll need to cover. But that's going to be it for this update video. And yeah, do let me know what you guys think about this update. If you want to give me your thoughts about your experience with the Power Pack update or the Spec 3 update, yeah, you can let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, please do hit the like and the subscribe button. Greatly helps me out. And that's gonna be it for this video. So take care, everyone. This is Mr. MCA, and I'll see you in the next video.